A woman walked into Judge Judy's courtroom thinking she was the smartest person in the room. She adjusted her fake glasses, lifted her chin, and spoke with the confidence of someone who believed vocabulary could win a case. But 3 minutes later, that confidence was gone. Her hands were shaking. Her face had turned pale, and the same judge she had insulted was now holding a thick folder of evidence that would destroy every lie she had built her image on. This was not just a small claims case. This was the moment arrogance met receipts. And by the end of it, Karen Elizabeth Thornberry would learn a lesson that millions of people would never forget. Because education without humility is not intelligence, it is just ego wearing a suit. Karen Thornberry was 41 years old, a self-proclaimed business consultant, and the kind of woman who loved reminding people how smart she was. She called herself an entrepreneur, a thought leader, a digital strategy expert. Her online profiles were filled with polished business words, motivational quotes, and claims about her impressive education. She said she had an MBA from Boston University. She said she had launched multiple successful businesses. She said she understood modern business better than ordinary people. And when she walked into court that day, she carried herself like she was about to teach everyone a lesson. But Judge Judy was not impressed by confidence. She was impressed by evidence. And Karen had no idea that the judge had already done her homework. The case seemed simple at first. Karen was suing a graphic designer named Michelle Rodriguez for $3,500. Karen claimed Michelle had stolen her business idea for an online coaching program. According to Karen, she had created a revolutionary concept for digital marketing education. And Michelle had taken that idea to start her own competing business. But Michelle told a very different story. She said Karen had hired her to create logos, graphics, website designs, and social media material. For 6 months, Michelle worked on the project. She designed, she edited, she revised, and every time she asked about payment, Karen gave her another excuse. Soon, after the first client, once the business launches, we're both going to be rich. But the money never came. There was no real partnership agreement. There was no signed business contract giving Michelle ownership. There was only work Michelle had completed and invoices Karen had ignored. And when Michelle finally demanded the $2,800 she was owed, Karen did what manipulators often do. She turned herself into the victim. She sued Michelle first. Michelle stood nervously at the defendant's table with emails, invoices, screenshots, and messages proving she had done the work. But even with evidence in her hands, she looked unsure. Because Karen had spent months making her feel small, Karen used big business words. She mentioned her degree. She talked about complex strategy and intellectual property. She made Michelle feel like asking for payment meant she simply did not understand how startups worked. But Judge Judy understood exactly what was happening. The hearing began like any other. Judge Judy looked down at the paperwork and said, "Miss Thornberry, you're suing Miss Rodriguez for $3,500. Tell me what happened." It was a simple question, but Karen did not give a simple answer. Instead, she launched into a long, dramatic explanation filled with business jargon. She talked about intellectual property frameworks, value propositions, digital transformation, and strategic positioning. She sounded less like a plaintiff in small claims court, and more like someone giving a fake TED Talk to people she secretly believed were beneath her. Judge Judy listened for a moment. Then she cut in. "I didn't ask for a dissertation. I asked what happened." The courtroom got quiet. Karen paused, clearly annoyed. Then she sighed, not quietly, not respectfully. She sighed in a way that made it clear she thought the judge simply was not keeping up. "As I was trying to explain," Karen continued, "this case involves modern business structures and intellectual property issues that require a deeper understanding." Judge Judy leaned forward. "In English, please." Karen gave a thin smile. "I am speaking English, Your Honor." Perhaps if you're unfamiliar with modern business terminology, I can simplify it. The gallery reacted immediately. A few people gasped. Michelle looked stunned. Even the bailiff shifted slightly, as if he could not believe Karen had really said that. Because Karen had just done something very dangerous. She had insulted Judge Judy in her own courtroom. Judge Judy's face did not change much, but her voice became colder. I understand business just fine, Miss Thornberry. What I don't understand is nonsense dressed up as expertise. Karen should have stopped there. She should have apologized. She should have answered the question. But arrogance does not know when to sit down. Karen opened her large binder and tried to hand over articles she had printed from the internet. She said her language was industry standard. She said thought leaders in the digital space would understand it. She acted like she was there to educate the court. Judge Judy did not even look at the binder. I don't need your articles, she said. I need you to tell me what you did in your own words. Karen rolled her eyes. The camera caught it, and that eye roll would later become one of the most replayed moments of the entire episode. Then Karen turned slightly toward the gallery and said, "For those who may not be familiar with complex business structures, Judge Judy cut her off instantly. You will face me when you speak in my courtroom, and you will speak when I tell you to speak." Karen forced a smile. "Of course, Your Honor. I'm only trying to make this efficient for everyone." But the damage was already done. Judge Judy began asking direct questions. Had Karen paid Michelle for the design work? No. Was there a written partnership agreement? No. Was Michelle's name on any business registration? No. Were there profits to share? No. Karen tried to explain that this was normal in startups. She said, Michelle had been working for future equity. She said, anyone with business experience would understand sweat equity. Judge Judy's response was immediate. That is not how the law works. Karen sighed again. Then she removed her glasses, pinched the bridge of her nose, and looked directly at the judge. And that was when she made the mistake that would destroy her case. Your Honor, no disrespect, Karen said, but this clearly requires an understanding of modern business and complex intellectual property. You can't handle smart people who operate on a different level. The courtroom went silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Even Michelle looked frozen. Karen had just told Judge Judy she could not handle smart people. For a moment, Judge Judy only stared at her. Then a small smile appeared on her face. It was not a warm smile. It was the kind of smile that tells you the storm has arrived. Oh, Judge Judy said softly, I can't handle smart people. Then she reached for the thick manila folder on her desk. Karen had not noticed it before. She had been too busy performing, too busy showing off, too busy assuming that nobody in the room was prepared for her. But Judge Judy had been prepared from the beginning. She opened the folder slowly, and Karen's confident expression began to fade. Miss Thornberry, Judge Judy said, since you believe this case requires intelligence, let me show you how someone who supposedly can't handle smart people deals with someone who thinks she is smarter than everyone else. The first document came out. Let's begin with your credentials, Judge Judy said. Your LinkedIn profile says you have an MBA from Boston University. Is that correct? Karen quickly nodded. Yes, Your Honor, that is correct. Judge Judy looked down at the paper. Interesting, because what I have here shows that you received a master's degree from Central State University. You attended Boston University for 1 semester as a non-degree student. 3 classes. That's it. Karen's face changed, the confidence slipped. That's not exactly. Judge Judy cut her off. It is exactly what it is. You listed a school as your alma mater when you did not earn a degree there. That is not strategy. That is not branding. That is lying. The courtroom was silent. Michelle looked at Karen, shocked. For months, Karen had used that degree like a weapon. Now the weapon had been taken out of her hands. But Judge Judy was not done. She pulled out another document. You also call yourself a successful entrepreneur. So I checked your businesses. Karen swallowed hard. Judge Judy began reading. A consulting company dissolved after less than a year. A marketing project that ended in customer complaints. A coaching program that collected money but never properly launched. Another business abandoned after only a few months. One failed venture after another. Each one wrapped in big promises. Each one ending with unpaid people, unhappy clients, or legal trouble. These are your successful ventures, Judge Judy asked. Failed businesses, complaints, refunds, lawsuits, and people left chasing money. Karen tried to speak. Those were learning experiences, Your Honor. Market conditions were difficult. Judge Judy raised her hand. They were failures. And failures are not the problem. The problem is pretending they are success stories so you can intimidate people who actually do real work. Karen's hands were now gripping the podium. The woman who had entered the courtroom with a superior smile was starting to look trapped. Then Judge Judy reached for the next set of papers. This was the moment the case truly turned. I also pulled your court history, she said. Did you know court records are public? Karen's eyes widened. She knew what was coming. Judge Judy read through the cases. A graphic designer who had sued Karen for non-payment. A web developer who had won a judgment against her. Another creative worker who had settled after Karen failed to pay. And then came the worst one. A woman who had attended one of Karen's workshops had shared her business plan during the session. Months later, Karen launched a nearly identical concept. That woman sued, and won. Judge Judy looked directly at Karen. So you are standing in my courtroom accusing Miss Rodriguez of stealing your idea, when you have already been found liable in another court for taking someone else's idea. The gallery reacted. Whispers spread across the room. Karen looked like she wanted to disappear. But the final blow was still coming. Judge Judy pulled out a printed comparison. Now let's talk about this revolutionary coaching program you claim Miss Rodriguez stole. She held up the document. This is from a website that sells pre-made course templates. Your so-called original idea is template number 23, available for purchase for $47. Karen's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Judge Judy continued. I compared your outline to the template. It is identical, word for word. Then she leaned forward. You did not create anything. You bought a template, gave it to Miss Rodriguez to design, refused to pay her, and now you're suing her for theft. Her voice rose. You called me too stupid to understand modern business. And you didn't think I would spend 5 minutes checking? Karen was trembling now. The glasses, the binder, the business language, the fake confidence. All of it had collapsed. Judge Judy stared at her with the controlled anger of someone who had seen this type of behavior too many times. Miss Thornberry, people like you use words as weapons. You use fake credentials to make others feel small. You take talented people, convince them they are lucky to work for you, and then act offended when they ask to be paid. Karen tried to interrupt. Your Honor, that's not fair. I never meant. Judge Judy stopped her. Fair? You want to talk about fair? You stood here and told me I couldn't handle smart people. You implied I was too old or too uninformed to understand your little business world. The courtroom was completely still. Judge Judy's voice became sharper. I have spent decades listening to liars, scammers, and people who think confidence can replace truth. I saw through your paperwork in less than a minute. So tell me, Miss Thornberry, who couldn't handle smart people today? Karen began to cry. Not quiet tears, desperate tears. Her makeup started to run. Her voice cracked. Please, Your Honor, I'm sorry. I didn't mean any disrespect. I made a mistake. Please don't make me pay. I can't afford it. Judge Judy looked at her without sympathy. Now you're sorry. Now you want respect. Where was that respect when you were talking down to everyone in this courtroom? Then came the ruling. Your case is dismissed. Karen lowered her head. But Judge Judy was not finished. I am ruling in favor of Miss Rodriguez on her counterclaim. She is awarded the full $2,800 for the graphic design work you failed to pay for. Michelle's eyes filled with tears. Judge Judy continued. I am also awarding additional damages for the manipulation and the time wasted by your dishonest claim. With court costs included, your total judgment is $3,750. Karen gasped, but I don't have that kind of money. Judge Judy's answer was ice cold. Then you will get a job. Or a second job. Because unlike you, most people work for their money, instead of stealing someone else's labor and calling it entrepreneurship. The gavel came down, case closed, but the impact did not end in that courtroom. When the episode aired, clips spread everywhere. People shared the moment Karen insulted Judge Judy. They shared the folder. They shared the receipts. They shared the exact second. Karen realized she had walked into a trap built from facts. Online, people called it one of the most satisfying courtroom takedowns ever. Not because Karen lost money, but because everyone had met someone like her. Someone who uses big words to confuse people. Someone who hides behind credentials. Someone who makes others feel stupid for asking simple questions. Someone who believes arrogance is the same thing as intelligence. But Judge Judy proved something powerful that day. Real intelligence does not need to announce itself. It does not need fake degrees. It does not need a binder full of buzzwords. Real intelligence asks clear questions, checks the facts, brings the receipts. And when the truth finally comes out, no amount of attitude can save a lie. Michelle Rodriguez left that courtroom vindicated. She had been made to feel small for months. But in the end, her work mattered. Her evidence mattered. Her truth mattered. Karen Thornberry walked in believing she was operating on a higher level, but Judge Judy showed her the highest level in any courtroom is not ego, it is proof. And proof does not care how confident you sound. Proof does not care what words you use. Proof does not care what school you pretend to have attended. When the receipts arrive, the performance ends. So remember this. Never confuse education with wisdom. Never confuse confidence with truth. And never walk into a courtroom thinking your attitude is stronger than the evidence. Because sooner or later, someone will open the folder. And when they do, every lie will have to answer for itself. Karen brought arrogance, Judge Judy brought receipts, and justice was served.